Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live from the Eagle's Nest at the National Conservation Training Center. I'm Randy Robinson. I'll be your host today, and we're looking at a live shot of an American bald eagle's nest that's about 90 feet up in the air, 90 feet off the ground in the top of a big old sycamore tree here at the National Conservation Training Center, or as we call it, NCTC for short. We're near Shepherdstown, West Virginia, in the beautiful eastern panhandle of the state. And this eagle's nest has been here for 20 years. So we're now celebrating our 20th anniversary of the NCTC nest. Now, this was one of the first eagle cams in the country. I believe the camera at the Blackwater Falls Eagle's Nest, Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge, I should say, was maybe the first in the country. This was one of the early ones, and today there are maybe 50 cameras around the country that feature bald eagle's nests, and they are fascinating. We've got a great show lined up for you. Today we're going to look back a little bit of the history, but we'll also look forward to the future nesting season, and we'll look at a year in the life of the eagles to help you better understand their various behaviors and the things that they do in the nest. But first, we'd like to take a look at our featured video of the week. And this is a great one. You're going to love this. So we'll go from our live view right here to a video that was recorded back in February. Rob Garfinkel here recorded this video, and then it kind of went viral. And here it was. This was actually January 30th. So our headquarters folks called this the branch managers, and you can see why. Branch managers at work. This one actually went viral across the country. CNN picked it up, CBS, NBC, ABC. It was all over Twitter and Facebook, and you can see why. It's a nice shot of teamwork, and we'll play it again for you in case you missed it. But if you do want to see it, it's out on YouTube. But if you Google branch managers video, that's the one that you're seeing right now. The two of them at work. That's the male and the female. Female's on the left. She's a little bigger. Male's a little bit smaller. A little hard to tell them apart, but you'll get more used to it as you watch the nest over time. So welcome everybody. We want to start off with that video in case you didn't get to see it before. Before we get into the program, we want to thank our partners who made this all possible, the Outdoor Channel who does the streaming, friends of the National Conservation Training Center, our production team, our studio team here at NCTC, Bald Eagles 101, and all the viewers who keep track of the nest action and post it online. We've got a great group of folks there, lots of fantastic photos and videos, as well as almost minute-by-minute commentary that you can keep track of what's really going on in the nest. And we want to answer your questions today too, so feel free to put those into the chat room at any time. Welcome to all our school groups watching. You can put the questions into the live stream or YouTube chat. And today we'll look at some video highlights from past weeks, and we'll get some behind-the-scenes views of NCTC, things you don't normally see on the Eagle Cam views. So again, welcome to everybody, our old friends and all our new friends. Thanks for joining us. So here's where we're located. We're about 2 hours northwest of Washington, D.C., right along the Potomac River. Now, bald eagles love to be near water. In this case, the Potomac, but they like rivers, lakes, and streams. So the yellow star there is the National Conservation Training Center. And like I said, we're just a little ways north of the college town of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And it's a beautiful stretch of river. That's our training center buildings on the that you see in the center. The Potomac River. On the right side of the Potomac, as we see it, is the state of Maryland. On the left side is West Virginia. Just off the edge of this photograph is the eagle tree, the sycamore tree, about 100 feet tall, well over 100 years old. And here's an aerial view. We've got some new drone video. This is an island that the eagles like to fish over. This is a brand new video, and you can see how the island divides the river here. And this is one of the favorite fishing areas for the bald eagle pair. And they're here pretty much, when the young ones hatch, they're going to be back and forth many times during the day. It's not unusual when we're out on the river on a canoe or kayak trip to see a bald eagle fishing. And what we're looking downstream, and towards the bottom, these islands are called Shepherd Islands. There's actually two fairly small islands, but at low water levels, there's actually a Native American fishing weir. These were rock structures that the native peoples built to help them catch fish. And it's a shallow area, so that's where the eagles often catch fish, and they're very good at fishing. And once these eggs hatch, and we're hoping to see the eggs hatch next week, you'll see them bringing fish in, because that's the main diet for the young eaglets is fish. That's high protein and high moisture, and that's their favorite food. So here's another live shot of the nest right here. And they're incubating right now. So these eggs were laid on February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, and then again on the 18th of February. 2 eggs were laid. That's what they're incubating. Incubation time is about 35 to 38 days. So next week, anytime after March 22nd, which will be next week, we're hoping to see eggs hatch. And right now they've been busy for the last several weeks incubating, bringing in dry grass. And as you'll see in our photos and video, they're excellent parents. So do we have a field shot, Rob, that we can show folks of the actual whole tree that we can look at and to see where the nest is? There we go. So that nest is and I see a bird circling up there. Can't tell what it is. Could be a vulture. But the nest is about 90 feet up in the air, and we've got 2 cameras mounted above it. That's new for this season. So if you haven't been here, we've now got a camera streaming on YouTube, and you can get either a wide angle shot or a close-up shot of the nest. But down below the nest, about 30 feet below it, you see that horizontal sort of a line. That's a platform made out of sticks and limbs that we put in a few years ago. And it's just sort of a backup, a plan B. If the nest should fall or fail, that might give them a little bit of a head start as to a place to start a new nest. But like we said, this nest has been here for 20 years. It's nice and strong. It's about 8 feet across, roughly circular. It's about 5 feet deep. They add sticks to it every year, as we saw in our opening video from Rob there. And it's just amazing how big these eagles' nests can get. And here we're back at the live shot. I believe that's the female on there. Like I said, the female's a little bit bigger, but unless you see them together, it's a little hard to tell them apart. And by the way, they don't get that white head and tail feathers until their mating age, about 4 or 5 years old. So today we're going to look back at the 2-decade history of our eagle's nest here. But first, for those of you not familiar with our training center, well, a little bit about it. This is where conservation professionals from around the world come for the latest cutting-edge training in leadership, biology, and technical skills. While they're here, we have some fun things for them to spend their spare time on in the evenings. And one of those is to hit our hiking trails. We've got about 500 acres on our campus, and this time of the year, or coming up soon, they may be treated to some beautiful wildflowers along the trail. Let's take a look at some of those, and then we'll get back to the nest. And these are just some of the things you might see as you're out hiking out here. Dutchman's breeches. And thanks a lot for getting those great wildflower shots, Brett. This is a beautiful area, and during our programs we're going to do these bi-weekly and try to keep you up to date on what's going on in the nest and with the eggs as they progress, as they grow. But we'll show you a little bit as we can from time to time on some of the beautiful natural features of the training center here, some of the historic aspects of it. We've got a great museum and archives, and we'll kind of relate that back to the eagles themselves, which are really an American conservation success story. They came back, they were on the endangered species list for many years. And since they've been protected, they've been coming back. Populations have been increasing in a big way. So we're looking again at the live nest, and we'll keep an eye on that. And if we see a change of the guard or one of the other birds come in and switch off, we'll go back to it. But right now we want to go and take a look at some photos here to just give you a little bit of a background on the nest itself. Here's another shot of the nest that you don't see from the cam, but there's a big barn to the left, and the tree, we can't see the whole tree there, but that's another view of the tree. And we've got this area marked off as an eagle nesting area. So during the nesting season, we don't want anybody getting in there to disturb them. So we do have it well posted. Now here's some of the earliest photographs we have, and this was actually in 2003 when they built the nest. These were taken with a telephoto lens from the ground. We didn't have a camera in the tree at the time. So you can see the original pair, Liberty and Belle, as we called them, building this nest. And they had it done in a few months. In the fall of 2003, they worked hard on it. And you can see it's a lot smaller then than it is now. Of course, they add to it every year. But the first remnants or the first sticks we saw coming in 2003, and during that fall we watched the nest grow, and then they laid their first eggs in the spring, or really February of 2004. So we got some early shots. This is one of our early camera shots of back in 2005, the fall of 2005, we put the first camera up there. And so these are some of the first shots we got. You can see it's more of a looking down view. Some of those limbs are gone now, and so we've repositioned the camera over the years. But it's been a very productive nest. In 2006, there were 3 eggs laid, 3 hatched, and 3 young birds fledged. And look how they changed. This is just in 3 months. They come out of the egg very tiny. In just 3 months' time, they are juvenile eagles, and they're ready to fly or fledge from the nest. You can see why the nests need to be so big. And we were amazed at what we saw. There's such great parents taking care of the nest through the worst kind of weather. This was 2007. We had nasty, icy storms and weather. Again, in 2008, we had 3 eaglets. They all hatched, they all fledged. They got lots of fish. You can see Liberty and Belle feeding their young ones right here. And over the years, the technology's changed, greatly improved. Here's a great photo by Deb Steck of Bald Eagles 101 of our newer camera. And it's a much higher resolution. We get some great images from it now. You'll see those online. We've also got a great chat room that the Outdoor Channel just upgraded called Hiver Talk, where you can go in, see what's going on, post your questions or your comments, look at photos, look at videos that get posted. It's a very educational, really nice, really teamwork from everybody here. We've got an infrared camera on it at night. You can see what's going on. Now the birds don't see this. It's a wavelength that's not visible to the human eye. It doesn't bother the birds, but it allows us to see a black and white image at night. People wonder how we get the camera up there. Originally we had a tree climber, but nowadays we have a crane truck that comes in. We only do this in the fall, in October, November, when the eagles aren't around very much. We don't want to disturb them. But that's Kyle Friend up in the tree. You can see that white, that's actually the camera behind his head. and Kyle does the maintenance work for us, make sure everything's working, and we test it all out in the fall of the year. So right now the camera is about 95 feet up in the air. That's a perfect level for a bald eagle selfie. And we get some great images of the young ones as they grow. I'm just going to go through. Here's another view of a nice tree view there. You can see what it looks like in the spring of the year as the leaves are starting to come out on the trees. And we'll go back and look at we'll look at our live nests, and then we'll come back and look at a little bit of eagle behavior and biology now. And I want to give a shout out to our folks that are joining us. We've got Deb and Paul online with us. Kim, Gail, thanks for joining us, everybody. Robert Evans says, oh, Robert's out in Fargo. All right, thanks for joining us, Robert. And Ron from Montana. Janet 80 all the way from Arizona. Welcome, Janet. Robert Evans. I am timing out repeatedly. Okay, yeah, it could be the bandwidth. By the way, on that YouTube, new feed on YouTube, you can adjust the settings. If you go to the bottom of YouTube, look at that little gear wheel, you can adjust it for lower bandwidth settings, so that's something to keep in mind. It's also got a 12-hour rewind on it, so you can go back and look at what happened as much as 12 hours ago. So let me take a look on YouTube. We're also going out on YouTube Live, and I don't see any questions right now, but feel free to put those in. If we've got any school groups joining us today, we welcome you all. I know Rosemont Elementary over in Martinsburg, West Virginia might be joining us today. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in to us, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. So we'll go back and look at a year in the life. Here what we've done is kind of condensed a whole year into about 3 minutes of photos we can kind of describe what goes on throughout the year. So fall is their bonding and their time to get together and rebuild the nest. People often ask, how do you tell the male from the female? Again, the female's on the right, she's a little bigger. And again, she's on the right. Here she's on the left. You can see how they compare in size. Female on the left, male on the right. The current pair, folks call them Bella. Bella on the left, Smitty on the right. And you can see NCTC, some of our buildings in the background there. So in October, November, December, even now, they're still bringing sticks in. We saw the video earlier. That's sort of a habit of theirs. They continue to build up the nest. They work really hard bringing these sticks in. And then it turns into winter, and that's their mating time. January, they're mating, and you can see how their feathers on the bird on the right has the feathers ruffled up to give them extra insulation, keep them warm. Lots of birds do that, not just eagles. But once the eggs are laid, they're going to take turns incubating and stay on those eggs 24/7. If it snows, they'll put their wings out. We call that tenting, or a mombrella to keep the rain off. They spread their wings out to keep the nest as dry and warm as they possibly can. And eagles' body temperature is about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. They also have to turn the eggs about every hour. You can see one of the eggs in there. They turn them to keep the eggs evenly heated and also to keep that membrane from sticking to the shell of the egg. But when it's time to change or take a break, they'll put their head back and they'll give out a loud chortle. The mate will come in and they'll trade places. So both the male and the female take turns incubating eggs. And they both have a brood patch, it's called. It's a bare area of their skin or their chest, on their chest, where they can get their skin right up against the eggs to keep them warm. One other thing I'll point out on that slide, their feet, of course, they have very sharp talons. They don't want to puncture an egg. So when they get on the eggs, watch them, they curl their talons or their toes up and keep their foot balled up so they don't actually poke an egg or each other with the talons. So here's what we like to see. Maybe in about a week we'll see this. There's a hatch going on right there. The egg on the left is hatching. The one on the right is already hatched. This is from a couple of years ago. This is what a young one looks like. They're gray with a black beak for starters. And within a few hours, they're being fed. The adults bring in fish, break off tiny little pieces, and very carefully give them little chunks of food. Of course, they're very small. They don't want to give them a piece that's too big. And it is amazing how fast these birds grow. You won't believe it till you actually see it. And in these photos, I'll go through them pretty quickly here. You can see this bird's about a week or two old now. Still has its gray thermal down. That helps keep it warm, but it doesn't do anything for wind or rain protection. They still have to be kept warm by the adults, even as they get a little bit bigger. But now it's the size of a pigeon already at a couple weeks old. And now you can see the beak is getting bigger. And this little guy, they sleep a lot. They eat and sleep like most young ones do. And look at the bulge. That's the crop, C-R-O-P. That's the enlarged area of the neck, where it's kind of a food storage area. So they can eat a whole bunch of food. It's temporarily stored in their crop, and then later on they can put their head back. It looks like they're yawning, and do a crop drop and drop that into their stomach to later on digest it. So that's how you can tell if they're well fed. They've got a big area on their neck, a big bulge, and that's their crop. And other birds, turkeys, geese, chickens, have crops as well. Like I said, they're always moving branches around, readjusting, and they're bringing fish in from the nearby Potomac River. Here we see a sucker, and we can also see the young ones starting to get those dark feathers on. Those are what we call pin feathers or blood feathers, because they have a blood supply. And when they get about a month old, they sort of get to this comical stage where they're a little awkward. They've got great big feet and a big beak. Their feet grow bigger than or faster than the rest of their body. So they're kind of stumbling around their nest, kind of comical to watch. But you can see this one, how big his talons are already, and he's maybe about a month old in these photos. But they do grow amazingly fast, and they're starting to get their adult feathers or their flight feathers in, just barely growing in these photos. Here they're a little bit bigger. This one's getting ready to do a poop shoot. They know instinctively they don't want to go to the bathroom in the nest, so they point their butts up and throw it out over the edge of the nest, and you'll see that happen quite a lot. And in about 2 months' time, here's what they look like. They are nowhere near ready to fly yet. This is about mid-May, and they've got most of their adult feathers. They're still growing. They're about a month away from being able to fly at this point. But they do grow very fast, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's see if we've got any questions coming in here. And so we've got one on YouTube. How many eggs do they typically have in their clutch? Well, usually it's 2, but it can vary from 1 to 3. Very seldom do they have 4 eggs. Last year up in Pennsylvania, there was a nest that had 4 eggs, but most commonly it's 2 or sometimes 3. Good question, thank you. And hello to Jackie from out in Sherwood, Oregon. We've got some of our friends out there. Chelsea and Todd are out at a national wildlife refuge in or near Sherwood, Oregon. I want to say Tuolumne. That's not the right word. But anyway, somebody will correct me. Okay, it looks like my chat here is, okay, we got something from Paul. Oh, Paul says the Pennsylvania nest has 4 eggs again this year. Very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Last year, the 3rd or the 4th one didn't make it. I mean, it did hatch, but it got exposed and probably got hypothermic and didn't make it. It died in about the 1st week. So Jackie's asking what happens to the unhatched eggs, and she said, yeah, it's Tualatin National Wildlife Refuge in Sherwood, Oregon. Thank you, Jackie. The unhatched eggs, they'll get buried over. If the egg doesn't hatch, they don't want to throw it over the side, nor do they want to throw any uneaten fish or animals over the side, because that could attract predators like raccoons and other critters if they did that. So they leave stuff in the nest pretty much, and they'll just cover it over. They'll bring dry grass in, and it will get covered over time. I don't know why, but my Facebook or my live stream feed is repeating everything a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to have to scroll through here. It seems like it's choking on me. I'm going to try to refresh this and see what happens. So let's go back to YouTube and look at Ray's question. Between the male and the female, which has the longest lifespan? Good question, Ray. Nobody's ever asked that before, and I don't know that there's any difference. Now, a bald eagle in the wild could live 25 years on average. An eagle, I think the oldest one ever known out in the wild was up in New York, and I believe it was maybe 38 years old, which is pretty amazing. Now, a bald eagle in captivity that's being taken care of with, veterinary care and fed and all, they could live to be late 30s or 40s, but in the wild, 25 is a pretty good average, and I don't know that there's much difference between male and female, but that's a good question. So here we go. We've got a couple of questions coming in. This is Mrs. Markley's class, and welcome to Rosemont Elementary over in Martinsburg. So my students want to know, how do the mom and dad know when it is time to switch an egg watch duty? Well, that's a good question. It's just sort of instinct to them. They get tired sitting on eggs. They need to get up and stretch. So, there's no exact time, but usually what they'll do is, you'll see them, they'll put their head back and they'll do kind of a chortle, I call it, or they'll communicate with each other. Now, the other adult, we don't see them on the photo that we're looking at or on the live video, but chances are they're over in a tree that we don't see on the camera. They're always close by. They're guarding the nest, so if one is sitting on the nest, and it's the female that's on the nest now, that's Bella. The male, Smitty, he's going to be around somewhere watching the nest, and he's going to chase off any other strange bird that might come around, like a hawk or another eagle or an owl, a raven, whatever. So they work together to take care of the young ones, to incubate them and to take care of them. But they just communicate with each other. When they get tired of setting and they need to go out and stretch or get some food, then they'll do the switcheroo. Good question. So Colleen's been watching for some years now. Glad to have you with us, Colleen. Jackie's asking, what would cause a female to leave the nest and not come back, leaving recently laid eggs like Harriet down at the Southwest Florida nest did? That's very unusual, Jackie. I don't know about that particular case, but it is not uncommon. For example, last year, if you watched the nest here at NCTC last year, you know that our female, our resident female that you see on the nest now, Bella, got chased off for about 3 weeks, and she may have gotten injured. We saw her in early February. She had blood on her head feathers, and she was gone, and a new female came in, a younger female, took over the nest, but then about 3 weeks later, Bella came back and took over the nest. So this is not uncommon for young females. When they turn 4 or 5 years old, they're looking for a nest of their own and a mate and territory of their own. So they do fight with each other. And as these populations grow, that's what happens. They can fight and sometimes get injured badly. And we think that's maybe what happened to our original female, Belle, back in 2018. She was attacked after dark at night by another eagle. In fact, we've got some video of sort of a similar thing from this year. We'll show you here in a little bit. Are there any branding programs for raptors? There are. We don't ban these birds, but some state wildlife agencies and some universities still ban them for research purposes, but these birds here at NCTC have never been banded. Valerie's asking, where are they in the off season when they don't have eggs? Do they go elsewhere or stay local? These ones pretty much stay local, Valerie. We see them from time to time. If it gets really, really cold, like we do know that, you know, eagles, golden and bald eagles from Quebec and northern Canada, they'll come south where it's a little bit warmer. But, you know, here we have fairly, relatively moderate temperatures, so they stay around here pretty much. They're only on the nest during nesting season though, and we're talking February through mid-June. After that, they're pretty much down at the river, and that's where they live. Hannah says, thank you so much for all you do. I'm a computer teacher in Shinston, West Virginia, and have been showing the live stream to all of my classes. Our K through 5 students are very invested. That's awesome, Hannah. Thank you for doing that. Very nice to hear. We always love to hear teachers who are sharing the Eagle Cam with their students, and you can always email me, and I have a program that I do online with students as well. You can email Randy_Robinson at fws.gov, and we can set up a Zoom session with your students. Jackie's asking, why do owl strikes occur? Well, owls, especially great horned owls, would love to get an eagle egg or a young eaglet. And so they've been known to actually knock a bald eagle off of the nest. We've seen video of that, not here, but at other nests. And especially at night, a great horned owl, they're pretty good size, and an eagle we perched, and I've seen the owls just knock the eagle right off the nest. I saw that happen on a camera that's on a nest up in Pittsburgh. A little bit uncommon, but not unheard of. Let's see. Kim's asking, how do fluff feathers keep them warm? They fluff their insulation up. You know, it'd be like if you had a down sleeping bag and you shake it, that gets the down nice and fluffy, and it's the air in between the spaces that keeps you warm, or in that case, keeps them warm. How old are Bella and Smitty? This is just off the top of my head, and we know this because, let's see, I'm just going to say very quickly about, I'll tell you what, Deb knows exactly how old they are. Deb, if you could put that in, I won't have to give a wrong answer. I'm going to say Smitty's about 17, and Bella is maybe 8, but I could be way off there.
Wrap up for the presentation.
Let's see, we do have quite a few questions coming in yet. Do you have current estimates on bald eagle populations in West Virginia? Probably well over 300. That's the last I heard, Rick. Deb says owl strikes occur about nightly at the Southwest Florida nest, and the male got knocked off his perch regularly. So it sounds like they've got a lot of owls down there. That could have been what caused maybe the female left, because there were too many owls around. So yeah, Smitty came in about 2011. He was about 4 years old at that time, and we know that by their feathers. And Rob, I'm just going to, before we wrap up here, we're getting short on time, let me just quickly go through these remaining slides that we have, so you'll know that what's to come. As I said, eagles are very good guardians here. They're looking at another bird flying over. If their calling doesn't scare the bird off, then, oh, there we go. My slides were stuck. Then they'll take off and chase that bird away. So they're very good protectors of the nest. Here's another shot of the young one. As I said, they get about mid-May to mid-June. This is what they look like. They're getting close to their adult feathers and adult size. They do a lot of wing exercising, wing flapping to get the feel of the wind under their wings. You'll see them hopping down, up and down in the nest, and windsurfing. And before long, they get brave enough to get up on that top post. And there you can see the primary feathers drying out in the sun. And same thing for the adult here. And yeah, there we go. Here is a juvenile that's a little bigger than the adult male. That's probably a juvenile female. Here she's hunched over the food, protecting her food. They're very aggressive with their food, and that's a survival skill. They need that to survive. But by mid-June, here's what we like to see. They fledged or left the nest. The young one is on the far left side of the tree there, and the two adults are in the tree. You can barely see the nest for the leaves, but that kind of is a wrap-up of a year in the nest. Here's how they change over time. There's a bald eagle that's 6 months or a half-year old on the upper left. And as the years go on, this is what they look like after about 4 to 5 years old is when they're mating age. They get the white head and the white tail feathers. And so I hope those photos will give you a little bit of an idea of bald eagles. Now we've got a few videos. If you have a little bit of time, we'll show you some video highlights here. We're running a little bit over time, but we've got some nice video to show you from the last few weeks.
First is Bella defending nest.
And yep, we've got Bella coming in. This is Bella, or the female, defending the nest. This is from Paul Kolnik. You watch what happens. Here's another new female coming in. Bella says, "This is my nest, get out." And you could hear them falling through the branches. Now look closely, you'll see them fly towards the river. Both of them took off towards the river. We know they were okay. Now Paul put it in slow motion. Look at Bella, she's got her feathers ruffled up. That's an aggressive, that's a warning sign. Stay away. Since she jumps up, hits the other bird with her talons, knocks her backward, that's probably a young female. Like I said before, the young females don't know any better. They think there's a nest. I'm gonna find a mate, I'm gonna take over. It's kind of instinctive for them, you know. It looked like neither one was hurt, but Bella's right back into the nest and she resumes. And as we said, they're very good protectors of the nest. And there's right after, yeah, this was February 18th, about an hour after this particular, on this day, she laid the second egg. So the second egg was laid on February 18th.
Close-up of eggs.
So here we have a couple of close-ups. This is a nice video from Deb Steck. And you're going to see one of the birds come in here. And that was a sub-adult flew over there. And they're squawking at it. They don't want that bird around the nest. And you can kind of, their voice is kind of shrill. They're warning that bird that we saw fly over. They're warning that bird to get away. And look at them watching her. They're watching her, that bird flying around. It could be a sub-adult. We've seen it before. It's not an adult bird because it doesn't have the white head, but the sub-adult, you know, could be 2.5 years old, maybe 3 years old. But I believe oh, here we are. Yep. You can see her rolling the eggs. And they do this about every hour. Again, a video from Deb. We zoomed in on the nest here so you can see, and we'll do that next week, hopefully when they hatch. But you can see how she uses her beak. Now watch what happens when she sits on the egg. She's going to do a little wiggle. See how she's wiggling back and forth there? That gives, that allows her to get her skin, her brood patch, B-R-O-O-D, brood patch, right, it's bare skin right up against the eggs to keep them warm. And the feathers are good insulators, so if they touch the eggs, they wouldn't stay warm enough. But there you can see a nice view of the two eggs. This was from March 2nd, the video. They both like to also aerate the nest. They'll bring up the grass and pull it around and aerate it. The eggs also have to have a certain humidity, so that's why every now and then the eagles will get up and they'll just let the eggs breathe, so to speak. It's a porous membrane that the eggshells are. There's a nice shot of her moving them and balling her talons up. And now she's going to do that little wiggle to get back on there. And she even has some corn cobs, corn husks in there to help insulate the nest. So it's a lot of fun watching them. And I think we've got our last video. Here comes a big load of dry grass. This was a rainy week. It was March 10th. We had a lot of rain, and we had the nor'easter here with a lot of wind the last several days. So they brought in fresh grass, dry grass to help keep the nest as dry as possible. Very difficult to do when there's a lot of rain, but you'll see him get on the eggs right now and do that little wiggle. So we are out of time for today, but be sure and tune in the week after next Thursday. That would be March 30th for our next Live from the Eagle's Nest broadcast. We'll be talking about how biologists keep track of how many eagles there are, eagle populations. You'll see some exciting aerial views of nests, and that's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, March 30th. And again, thanks to all our friends, the Outdoor Channel, Bald Eagles 101, all our partners, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.